before I let y'all go, I want to say a word about Damar Hamlin. As we all know at this point, the young man suffered cardiac arrest on a football field. And as he lay there, all of us upset, all of us terrified, all of us praying for him and his family, I had to ask myself, is it worth it? We watch football. We invest billions into football. We love the Super Bowl. We put our kids in Pop Warner and JV and varsity and all of this stuff. But we are fundamentally committed to a gladiator sport, a brutal sport that threatens to lose your limbs, to injure your brain, to potentially kill you. And one small infinitesimal slice of those people who do this gladiator blood sport go pro. And even smaller slice stay pro. And an even smaller slice keep their money. So against the backdrop of all of that, why do we continue to support football? Why do we continue to make this a legal sport? And it ain't just football, it's MMA. It's all this stuff where the fundamental goal is intentional violence. Maybe, just maybe, we should consider and reconsider our commitment to this. Maybe our children are not worth sacrificing.
There are two worldviews because there are two different types of human beings. There are males and there are females. There are men and women, right? I know that that's not popular to say these days because of the activism that surrounds the whole gender theory debate. They will tell you that there are more than two genders, that there are 72, 73, 90, and almost to the point of an infinite number of genders. That's the agenda for today. But the reality is, and then bring it back to reality, right? The reality is there are two genders. There are males and females, men, women, however you want to define that. I've talked about this in other videos about the social construct aspect of this argument and how that is not rooted in anything substantial. But what we're witnessing here and what we've been witnessing here over the course of politics and in the social discourse is two different worldviews that are at odds with each other. And these worldviews are a masculine worldview and a feminine worldview. There are differences between men and women, masculinity and femininity. And this is what we're seeing that has creeped over from the political discourse and social discourse into a discourse of entertainment, and in particularly sports, and even more particularly football. There is the way that women see things, and then there is the way that men see things. And sometimes those two understandings, those two perspectives don't make sense to each other. You just saw Marc Lamont Hill, who is an activist. He is a I don't want to describe him in any ways that he wouldn't describe himself, but I see him more as a progressive, left, liberal-leaning activist, commentator, educator, and intellectual. Excuse me. But his worldview, for the most part, because that side of the political spectrum, that side of the social spectrum, is that of a feminine worldview, right? And I don't mean any kind of disrespect towards him or anything in that way, but I'm just telling you, these are the facts here, right? He sees things based on that monologue right there. This is a very feminine way of looking at things. Why? Because women have their nature, which is to nurture, which is to protect, which is to make sure that their children, and this goes back to the biology, this goes back to our evolutionary history, that women took care of the children. Women, especially in the early years, the more formidable years, they made sure they had to take care of vulnerable beings, right? Vulnerable humans who could not take care of themselves. So women have that more nurturing aspect to themselves. That is a feminine principle. That's something that they have, right? The masculine way of looking at this is once a child matures and he is then given over to his father, and I'm not saying literally the woman just leaves her alone. No, but especially with the boy, there needs to be an aspect where the father takes primary he plays a more primary role in his development into becoming a man. And so what happens is that once the child is then starts to become of age, it is understood that he's going to become a man, and a man has a certain role, and that role is to be a protector, is to be a provider. It is to defend the family, the tribe, the social unit that they ascribe to at that time, and even today, from any type of threat or danger. This means having to go into danger. This means having to confront danger. So the father, the masculine worldview, understands that danger sometimes is necessary to confront. It's necessary to have to deal with. You cannot run from it your whole life. I see that men today are yearning for a type of cause. They're yearning for a type of purpose. And that purpose goes back to their nature, and that is to protect, it is to defend, it is to have something to fight for. In a lot of other cultures, there has been a ceremonial rite of passage when a boy becomes a man. We even see that uh, even to this day, as you know, in especially like the Jewish culture, they have a bar mitzvah. When a boy becomes a man, 13 years old, he becomes a man, they have a ceremony for that. But back in more primitive times, and prior to um, Western civilization kind of taking over, the rite of passage kind of included a ceremonial um, task that needed to be undertaken, right? It's very different things for different cultures, right? But the boy was asked to undergo something, whether it be a hunt, whether it be some type of spiritual practice, a fast, a journey into the. I don't know what. There's different things, right? But there was something that was of a great magnitude that they had to overcome and confront. We don't really have that, and I think that that's something that is important, and I think that sports kind of takes the place of that. That young men want to go out into the world and they want to have a cause and to have a purpose, and sometimes we direct that towards sports, challenges, competition, aggression. These are part of a masculine nature, and so football, with all its aggression, all its bruteness, all its ruggedness, with savagery, if you want to call it, kind of takes that place. It is a challenge to the young boy. Can you stand up, man to man, physical prowess versus physical prowess? How can you measure up when something is difficult, when it's hard, when it may cause pain, it may cause injury? Can you still stand at the front lines and be strong and be a pillar? I think that what we see going on is these two worldviews, the masculine and the feminine, battling with each other. And what happened with feminism started to become um, prevalent in our society, that there was a battle of the sexes, so to speak, gender wars, where the feminine, feeling oppressed, feeling subjugated, try to overcome the masculine, or is still trying and has succeeded to a certain extent as overcoming the masculine. I think football presents that type of threat. Football is a place of strong male presence. And the feminine doesn't like that. For one, the feminine doesn't like it because that's their sons and because they don't want to let go of their sons. They don't want to put their sons in harm's way. See, a lot of this time, this is coming from, a lot of our homes nowadays are becoming more single parent homes, primarily ran by the mother. We are living more in a matriarchal society where the mother is the head of the household, where the mother is the head of everything. There is no male presence there. There is no father there. There is no masculine energy there to guide the son. So the mother continues with her nurturing nature. There's nothing to check that. There's nothing to say, no, we need to bring balance to this. No, she just continues on till the point where he's 13, 14, 15, 17, 20, 30, 40, still living on his mom's couch, not taking care of the babies, and the mom making excuses for that because she wants to protect him. These things are important. They're very important, and I see that that's what's going on, is the feminine worldview that wants to protect their babies and see, man, that's a dangerous sport. I don't want to send my son out there to get hurt, to get hit in the head, to possibly have an injury. I don't want to send him out there. I want to keep him in the house, close by. It's dangerous. And this is kind of a metaphor for life in general when it comes to how single mothers raise their children. And I'm not trying to sit here and bash on single mothers and whatnot, but I'm just telling you, this is what happens when there's an imbalance and the family unit has been destroyed and has been taken away from its natural balance, right? Of a mother and a father. That this is a metaphor for how life works. So where I don't want to send my son out there into the world to have to deal with not just the streets, not just the law, but we're dealing with just life in general, paying bills, holding down a household, taking care of kids, all the responsibility that comes with that, having jobs. Like I don't naturally they want to protect their kids from that, and especially when they've been used to being everything for that child, their provider, their protector, their nurturer, their confidant, their everything, their friend. This is not something that they want to send their kids off into the world. So this worldview, this feminine worldview, wants to protect them, and so then it sees a sport like football and how brutal it is, and how these young men are getting hurt. And you see something as traumatic as what happened to Damar Hamlin on a Monday Night Football on a national scale. And now the conversation is going, we need to get rid of that. I think that's very dangerous. It's very dangerous because we're starting to breed this next generation. And let me walk that back. Not starting, we have bred generations of men that don't want to be men, that don't want to overcome these things, that don't want to overcome the very fact that they can deal with dangerous things. We need people to deal with dangers. We need people to step up and go to the front lines and put their life on the line to protect the women, the children, to protect the whole essence and everything that we've built. This is why you have soldiers. This is why you have police officers. This is why you have firefighters. This is why you have people that are willing to put their lives in danger, because it protects the greater good. And if we don't have that, then we become susceptible to any type of outside prey. And I think that what's going on here, if we're going to pull back a minute here and look at this, the bigger picture, I don't necessarily think that the world has decided that the strong alpha males, the provider and the protector, the defenders of the tribe, are not necessary. I don't think that. I think that there are logical people in very high places that understand that it's very much necessary. But these people in very high places also understand that in order to subjugate a large amount of people, they need to remove that from this group of very large people. That's what I think. Because facts are facts and nature is nature, and you're not going to change that because you don't like the game of football. This is reality, man. This is like the things that I'm saying is this is real, right? There are people that I believe that in very high places are the apex predators, alpha dominant males, possessing masculine energy, and they understand that if I want to subjugate or conquer a people, I need to get rid of their alpha, masculine, dominant energy. And so there's a concerted effort all the way around. Football is just a byproduct of that. Football is just a casualty in the war of getting rid of those people, those defenders of the tribe, the defenders of the people, and to where we become so weak and so dependent that we run to them and we say, please help us. And they'll say, okay, give us the power. This is what you see happening. You can deny it. You can act like it doesn't exist. You can say I'm over exaggerating, that it's all hyperbole, that I'm just trying to stir people up and get clicks and likes and views and whatever you want to say. That's fine. But the reality is that this is happening. This is happening over and over and over again. This is just a byproduct. This is two worldviews, masculine and feminine, and they're at odds with each other. And one is being used by people that want to subjugate all of humanity.